is finally fight day for the UFC, our first live before lock of 2021. Do you still miss me? That's the only question I
have. No, I'm already, I'm capped out already. But, good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Hope you got your coffee or whatever. And, you're ready for a nice day of some nice UFC fights on Saturday. Unfortunately, we lost the fight, though, Jason.
We did lose a fight. Phil Hawes is off of the card. If you've not seen that news, I will tell you, that was actually a fight that I was targeting. And it was because I wanted his opponent because I thought there was great value on DraftKings for him at 7,400.
Yeah, I hammered that fight. It's one of the fights that I had a ton of exposure to. Like when I go into Fantasy Cruncher on Awesemo.com, I go in there and I manipulate my exposure levels and I try to hammer certain fights. So that seemed like a GPP fight for me. I was really, really looking forward to that. I'm a big Phil Hawes guy. I'm also impressed with Nasruddin Imavov. So, I talked about how I didn't want to see two prospects face off. I guess I got my wish. I mean, who knows if they end up rebooking this? I don't know, but it's one less fight on the card. It makes things a little bit tricky because we have no low 8K options to really turn to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was, I'm not playing a ton today on DraftKings. I will tell you this, I am not playing at all on FanDuel today. I think if you've gone on to the FanDuel app, I think you probably can figure out why I'm not, because the biggest GPP on FanDuel, it's 4,000 the first place.
Yeah, man. So I'm like, okay, let me see what Jason's talking about with all these FanDuel contests. I go on there and I immediately shut the app off. I'm hoping that they're going to, come up with some big contests for the Conor fight. Maybe I'll, try the captain contest. We'll have to see.
Yeah, I know, man. It's just, man, not a ton that really interests me in terms of that. But we are here to break this one down for you. Of course, on the strategy show on Thursday, we talked about the new DraftKings scoring system. I think we do got to talk a little bit about there in terms of kind of how this is going to affect. And you brought up a really interesting point right before the show where you say, one of the things you're just kind of, you really want to sit back and kind of see how this DK system plays out, because you brought up an interesting point on the Thursday show, because I mentioned about if we're looking at a stack, and you got to look at that main event. Because first off, I don't know how you avoid the main event, whether we're talking cash or GPP, but could the new scoring system actually hurt stacking?
We'll have to see, right? We'll have a bunch of players and opponents in contests trying to stack early fights so that they have cashing lineups. So I do think that, with the unique scoring system, it'll probably eliminate stacking as a good option. But in the main event, with how we have total strikes included, I think that this is a nice recipe to try out the stack of the main event. Now, that's cash viable completely. Obviously, you could be limiting your ceiling if you are playing both in a GPP. But, I actually, with the 8,800 Phil Hawes, who I had plenty of him. I ended up pivoting to a couple guys that I think, a lot of the public will. I ended up pivoting to Max Holloway, even though I did have some Calvin Kattar. Okay, so I did stack. I ended up pivoting to Carlos Condit, who was basically in like 95% of my lineups anyways. I'm taking an aggressive stance on him. And then below him, Carlos Felipe. So you're going to have like those three really common pivots in that upper 8K range.
Yeah, Carlos Condit is someone that I am paying attention to there. I know some people, by the way, Tyler, producing this show, he's raised my volume a little bit, so hopefully that has fixed things up a little bit. So just let me know there in the chat if it's sounding good there on YouTube. But yeah, it's definitely still grappling based for me, especially like I saw someone, it was a graphic that someone put up of like, heavy wrestlers, like a Curtis Blades, of how this new system can affect him. So I think and you got a great piece over at Awesemo.com, the Takedown City article, which people got to check out. It is free content over at Awesemo.com. Check it out because, on DraftKings, you got to look at who could potentially take the fight to the ground and keep it there.
Yeah, I appreciate the shout out, and I really like the Takedown City chart and the graph because it's a nice visual to see the rate of takedowns that fighters are trying to, control the fight. It's also nice to see tendencies if a fighter is constantly being put on his back. Say they're getting taken down at a large clip. It's just nice to see that stuff in totality of their UFC career. The control time is another X factor, and maybe I'll start pumping out some more content with that. But yeah, definitely go over to the MMA articles tab. We have a ton of new content, ton of articles. Mark Stein has some stuff, some pieces up as well. So just in general, I love seeing the MMA DFS industry take off, and happy to have everybody back.
And one of the articles that you do have up over there is your takeaways from the weigh-ins. Anything really jump out to you?
I will say that the talk of weigh-ins has to be Puna Soriano. Like, he looks like a bodybuilder, Jason. I don't know if you saw, but when he literally flexed on the scale, it looked like he could fly away with his lats. Now, like, that stuff doesn't always translate into the cage. And when guys put on a ton of muscle mass, that can be detrimental over the course of 3 rounds, right, Jason? So, like, if you have a ton of muscle mass, it can zap your energy because, you need more oxygen, pump the blood and all that. So, like, I think it's good to notice when a fighter's taking their career seriously, but to put on a ton of muscle mass like that kind of does worry me in the long run because I think Dusko Todorovic is a tough fight. And if he starts to implement the game plan, does that really zap his gas tank?
Yeah, we'll mention about a prop bet in that fight that I think you got to pay attention to. Abraham, I appreciate you in the super chat already. Top 3 FanDuel core favorite MVP. Thanks, folks. Obviously, when I look at a core on FanDuel, even though I'm not playing on FanDuel, but today, I think it starts with Carlos Condit at $16.
Wow. Yeah, you really come around with Carlos Condit, and I like it. I think
it's the price point.
Yeah, I mean, that's a steal for me. $16. 8,700. He's priced up on DraftKings. You could be a little skeptical about him getting a finish, but 90% finish rate. Matt Brown over the course of the past couple of years has been less durable than early on in his UFC career. Can't take a shot really to the head. Can't really take shots to the body. He's really susceptible to body shots and has been submitted a ton of times in the UFC. So I like the Carlos Condit pick.
In terms of a favorite MVP, I don't know if one really sticks out to me above all others. I'd probably look at the main event.
I was going to say, I think the main event is a fight to target on both platforms. I think like 90% of my lineups have the main event just because of the new scoring system, and I think it's going to inflate the stats of total strikes because you got Max Holloway, who in some fights has thrown over 300 strikes. Calvin Kattar's going to have to match that if he wants to really put away Max Holloway, or he needs to catch him with a big shot. So I think just it's a nice spot. You got a nice discount, Kattar at 7,300 on DraftKings. $18. It's priced up, but I think, the 5 rounds, it kind of makes sense.
Someone mentioned about Justin Taffa at $11. I think he's way more a GPP play than he is a cash play. I mean, look, if Justin Taffa wins today, it is going to be by knockout within about the first 7 minutes.
Yeah, so like, I'll be honest, I don't have too much Taffa just because I have some confidence in Carlos Felipe. From a defensive standpoint, Taffa's reckless, right? Like super reckless, throws caution to the wind, which is kind of what you want in GPPs. You want guys that are going for it. Now, when you have fighters that are throwing with reckless abandon, they make more mistakes. And I know it sounds funny, but Carlos Felipe is pretty technical for a heavyweight, digs to the body a lot. I think that as long as he stays smart and doesn't get lured into a brawl, he could outbox and outstrike Justin Taffa, who does have the power advantage. But I don't hate it. I don't hate the Taffa call. If he wins, it's early. So you're looking probably at an optimal if he wins.
I want to mention this question from Brandon on Twitter, and this is a more in terms of roster construction. He says, when using the Awesemo Fancy Cruncher, how many unique fighters do you prefer to use when crunching 20-plus lineups? Appreciate you and all the content from you and Jason. I would say for me, it's 2 to 3.
Yeah, agree. I mean, I don't try to get too cute. with it. I think it's usually about 2, sometimes 3. I manipulate the ownership and the fights I'm targeting more than anything. So I kind of I create groups also. So if you haven't gone over to Awesemo, go check out the Fantasy Cruncher, because for me, okay, say if I'm looking at this card and I wanted every lineup to have either Max Holloway or Calvin Kattar, I'm going to create a group to include at least one of them. And I can pick a couple fights, make that my core, and make sure, say I pick 3 core fighters. I want at least one of them, maybe 2 of them in all of my lineups. And I find that very helpful for all slates, NBA as well. It allows you to get exposure to a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, look, you got to use those ownership projections. We have that Awesemo Plus membership. You got to take advantage of that. Of course, I appreciate everyone is here on an early Saturday watching live before lock. Of course, be sure to smash that like button, hit that notification bell, subscribe, do all of that. We're trying to get up to 50,000 followers here. Appreciate everyone that supports Awesemo here as we're here. Of course, we got shows all day long for you to get you ready for the NFL playoff action today. Also, NBA live before lock. So be sure to smash that like button. It really does help us out well. Value plays. So when we talk value plays, we're looking under 8,000 on DraftKings, 15 and under on FanDuel. DraftKings, that's very tough because of just kind of what the salaries are. I mean, when we look at the fighters under 8,000, the one that clearly sticks out is Calvin Kattar. I love Calvin Kattar in this spot. I'm not saying he's going to win the fight. I think he's got a very good chance to win the fight. But I will tell you, I am stacking this fight in cash. And I think you can also do it in GPP as well. I mean, obviously, you're hoping that this fight goes 25 minutes. When I look at other ones, Li Jialing is 6,900 is somewhat interesting. I expect Santiago Ponzinibbio to win it, but if you're looking to save some salary there, outside of that, the one that I don't know how to go with this one, and you were texting me about this yesterday, was Edwards at 7,800.
Yeah, you brought up some great points, some great values. You mentioned Jing Liang, probably one of the best values on the slate next to Calvin Kattar. I do expect Ponzinibbio to win. I think Calvin Kattar is the number 1 value play. As far as Edwards versus Yanan, you do have Edwards making her debut. Now, on the regional scene, she's really kind of came into her own, developed her game, started off judo background, aggressive striking. So when you have a fighter, especially in women's MMA, who's extremely aggressive and has some physical advantages over her opposition, you have my attention. So Edwards pushes the pace. It really comes down to how does she handle the debut? And we talk about this all the time of the pressure cooker that the UFC is. When you're finally at the big stage, the lights are on, and it's your time to shine. I don't often back debut fighters unless I have seen a lot on the regional scene. The regional scene for Edwards is questionable, but at 7,800 now with limited options, it is women's MMA. She could steal a victory here based on her aggression. I'm interested. I have some exposure there. I'm pretty light on Yanan just because of the landscape of the slate. I just prefer other 8K options.
Yeah. In terms of FanDuel, I think we kind of mentioned some in terms of this. Jialing, I think, is, if you're going to play FanDuel cash at $9, I think does make some interesting ones. Outside of that, Vanessa Mello at $8 maybe.
Yeah. I mean, Vanessa Mello is going to have to keep the fight standing. Now, she has struggled to do that in previous fights. As long as she keeps the fight standing, I think she wins. And I know that she's 0-3, in the UFC. So it's kind of hard to back a fighter that has not received her first win. But hear me out. She's going to be hungry for that win. She knows that her back's against the wall. I think both ladies need a victory here to stay in the promotion. Not the best record for Sarah Morris, 3-5 in the UFC. Has been with the company for a while now, between the Ultimate Fighter and whatnot. But it's a close fight. If Mello keeps it standing and has made the necessary adjustments, I think she can out-volume Morris to a decision. I really think that it's a close fight. And Vanessa Mello and Sarah Morris have struggled with weight cutting in the past. And if you looked back yesterday, and if you read my post-weigh-in analysis, Vanessa Mello might be in the best shape of her life, Jason. She looks good. And this is a fighter that usually does not look good on the scale. Morris looked good as well, but I really, really liked what I saw from Melo on the scale. So you have my attention. I have some exposure. Just limit your expectations. A finish is probably not happening here.
Top plays. You're going to about be surprised what I'm going to say my top play is.
Oh boy.
Come on, you know me too well. Come on, you know who it is.
I don't know. Calvin Kattar? Todorovic?
No.
I don't know. See, I don't know.
Violating my golden rule.
Austin Lingo?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'm glad you brought that up because I think the first fight of the night is very, very close. But go ahead with Austin Lingo.
To me, it's more about Jacob Kilburn. I think from a skill aspect, this is Austin Lingo's fight to lose. I really like him in this spot. You know me, I don't really love taking the first fight of the night, but also we always talk about how you got to use ownership projections.
Yeah.
And of course, if you want to get access to our ownership projections, just sign up for an Awesemo Plus weekly pass right now. $29.95 gives you access to all these. And if you just want an MMA weekly pass, you can get it for $8.95. And to me, I think that a lot of people are going to be looking at Joaquin Buckley at 9,400. I think I can take advantage on the ownership game, go down to Austin Lingo, and potentially give me a little bit up on the field.
Okay. I do have some Austin Lingo exposure. So I made sure that a lot of my lineups, if not all of them, had the main event in it. And a lot of my lineups, if not all of them, had the first fight of the night because I just view that fight as a fight that's going to have a high pace. They're both low level, in my opinion, Jason. I think that, if you look on the card, they're they're the low end of their division, and they're both looking for their first victory in the UFC, 0-1. Their debuts did not go well. Now, let me play devil's advocate here. I am a little bit more exposed to Kilburn here, and I will kind of tell you why. It's because of what I said. It's a low-level fight. And in Kilburn's losses, it's because he's been out-grappled a lot. He's truly like a fish out of water when it hits the mat, gets dominated. We even saw it on the Contender Series. Both good camps here. Kilburn coming from American Top Team. Austin Lingo coming from 4-7 Men. Now, if you look on the regional scene, you will see, Kilburn like flatlining opponents, like knocking them out stiff with good hands. And what I think could be the difference here are his kicks. He has a good, extensive karate background, which, you can snark at. But I think that, it's going to mean a lot when you're facing a guy who's so heavy on his front leg and so boxing oriented with Austin Lingo. So it's a fight that I'm kind of like 60-40 on. But trust me when I tell you, I think Kilburn might surprise people here, Jason. We'll see.
I will tell you, 2 of the 9,000 options I'm not big on. And that's Sarah Morris and Amif. He's always fights going decision. That's just one out there. Matt, by the way, appreciate you there in the super chat saying, Pete, all the content this week has been sweet. Of course, Pete's going to be, in the lab grinding here over the next couple of days as we got cards on Wednesday morning and also on Saturday next week. By the way, a little note, live before lock for the Wednesday card will be Tuesday night. I believe we're going to be going at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So just a little note in terms of that. So when live before lock is going to be. Let's look at, before we start slamming into these listener questions and comments, let's talk about some of the betting lines and betting line movements. On the prop bets, I found 4 prop bets that intrigue me, and I'm going to go right off. One of the prop bets is something that you wrote about on Awesemo yesterday. And well, apparently everyone's just looking at Pete's article. Because, Pete, what was the line when you wrote your article of Carlos Condit via TKO KO? It was like a plus 470 or something?
Yeah, I think it was like plus 430 or something like that when I wrote my article. And I guess the viewers Awesemo hammered that line because now it sits at what, Jason?
So when I did my sheet this morning, which was about 2 plus hours ago, it was plus 240. I believe it's now like plus 200. No, it is now plus 180.
So look I'm telling you, I'm telling you that the Carlos Condit be a KO TKO. And I'll tell you what could be inflating that is the interview. Like, a lot of people just seeing Carlos Condit kind of a little irritated and say, you know what, I'm going to finish this guy. Carlos Condit, we know what he is. He likes to strike, has a ton of submissions. A lot of those go back to the WEC. But I think he can hurt Matt Brown to the head. But I think a body, like a knee, is coming. And I think we're going to see Matt Brown crumple. I can't wait, man. I can't wait. You guys got to do me a favor, though. We're here. It's 11:20 in the morning. We have 385 people watching. Just do us one favor. Just hit that like button. We'll answer any question you guys have. Shoot the questions in chat. We'll get right to them.
Some other prop bets that kind of stick out to me. David Zawada via submission plus 552. Dusko wins round 3 plus 1,000. And this is one I think people may not necessarily be looking at. Joaquin Buckley via decision plus 270.
Yeah, it's another prop bet that I talked about in my article. I'm glad you brought it up. It's great minds think alike, Jason. Joaquin Buckley is going to be up against a stiff test here. And Alessio Di Chirico, he has pop in his hand. So, if Alessio Di Chirico catches Joaquin Buckley, I wouldn't be too surprised if we see him get rocked on the feet. So they're going to have, both going to have moments. But Joaquin Buckley, his prop bet for a KO TKO has been inflated because of his highlight reel knockouts. I mean, deservedly so. The kid is a super talent. But let's pump the brakes a little bit. Alessio Di Chirico has not been knocked out, has only been submitted. So I don't suspect Joaquin Buckley can really work towards a submission here. On the regional scene, Joaquin Buckley, you know this, he implemented takedowns and like a strong physical presence. Maybe he might have to go back to that to solidify some rounds. So we shall see.
Yeah, it's something you got to check out there. When you talk about the betting line movements, and so this is from the opening odds into where we're at now. Edwards, she opened plus 135. She's now minus 105. Carlos Felipe opened minus 240. He's now minus 190. Max Holloway opened minus 215, now minus 160. Sarah Morse opened minus 260. She's now minus 192.
Yeah, the Morris one's interesting because, I think that's a close fight. The crazy 9,100 price tag, that's tough to get to. I think that she's one of my least favorite 9,000 options. You brought it up earlier of two 9,000 options you're not too fond of. Hamazan Umayev at 9,200 is another one because of his lack of finishing ability. 53% of his 19 victories, lackadaisical approach. We shall see how the control time will possibly affect his score because he does like to go down and take his opponents to the mat. But, paying attention to line movement is helpful if you already have a stand on somebody. And it's kind of like affirmation.
By the way, you see right there at the bottom of the screen, we got a brand new promo going on over at Awesemo.com. Use the promo code KICKOFF to get 50% off a single week of Awesemo Plus Platinum. Just go to Awesemo.com/promos to take advantage of that deal right now and get you ready for, as we got a ton of MMA action coming for you here over the next couple of days. Of course, me and Pete will be here on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday of next week. So we'll see. We look forward to all that, but we're going to start getting into the listener questions. If you do have a question, hit us up on YouTube. You can also hit us up in our premium Slack account over there as well. So let's first start off with Easy Money 333. Di Chirico upset?
It's possible. It's possible. I was watching some more Di Chirico footage last night, and he's a guy that's not really intimidated by Joaquin Buckley, which is always great to hear. But he's also going to have to be careful because he doesn't want to get into an exchange with Joaquin Buckley, because I do believe Joaquin Buckley holds the power edge, probably the mental edge too. Like fighting a guy that's just knocked out tons of people like that. It's kind of like the early on. I don't know, like when people were fighting Anthony Pettis, until you see him, act human, you kind of are intimidated by the highlight reel.
Yeah. It's that's why I think you got to look at that decision prop. And we mentioned this on Thursday. If you go back to the fight against Jordan Wright, he didn't come out balls to the wall. He was very calculated in what he did. I think you had the line, I think on Twitter, like, man, I don't know how this guy makes 185 pounds.
It blows.
He made 170 at one point.
It blows my mind. Like, I step on the scale, and then I see like Joaquin Buckley step on the scale, and I'm like, my goodness, this guy, like, is he like 5 feet tall?
Harold, you need to get in the gym a little more, start lifting some more weights on Sunday morning.
No, bro, I am in the gym. I'm always doing the strength and conditioning. It's just body type. Like, I'm stretched out, and like Joaquin Buckley is just compact, and he's like just such an animal.
Yeah. Miles says, who scores more in a win, Condit or Dusko?
It's a great question. So let's talk about the Dusko fight, right? Because we already know, like, I really love Carlos Condit, and I have a strong take on him. If, he's upset by Matt Brown, my lineups are going to be in trouble. But Dusko is so young and is probably the better overall fighter than Puna Soriano. Now, Puna is a live underdog based on his power, and he's extremely impressive with his striking. Does have some jiu-jitsu to rely on as well. So let's not think that he's, limited. He's good, but I think that he could be a little bit behind in the volume, in the cardio department. I will say that Dusko's wrestling is probably better, and I just think that Dusko blends things together better. So Dusko is a good play against a dangerous opponent, 2 prospects. I think Carlos Condit's probably a safer play with like a softball matchup, but I have plenty of Dusko. It's one of the fights that I put in my lineup. First fight, main event, Dusko fight is like kind of my core of how I did things.
Joe says, who do you have more confidence in, Tafa or Jialing?
Jingling, yeah. I do. And I think my take on that would basically come down to, it's a great question. How does Santiago Ponzinibbio look after his 2-year hiatus?
I think the ceiling is higher for Tafa, but I think Jialing has a higher probability of winning.
I don't know if I agree with that. And the reason I don't know if I agree with that is because of the price, right? Like, if Jing Liang wins at 6,900, if you look at like what he produces at that score compared to 7,600, like Tafa could throw 6 strikes but get you an early finish. So I guess I backtrack. I might agree with what you're saying, but I do think Jing Liang is a lot closer to winning against Ponzinibbio than Tafa.
I prefer Tafa in GPP, Jialing in cash.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Jeremiah says, Pete Brown has been using his wrestling his last few fights, and Condit has the wrestling kryptonite bug. Any worries there?
Yeah, that is my one worry. I am not worried for Matt Brown to stand up with Carlos Condit. I think he gets finished. To our viewers' point, I'm going to my Takedown City article. Matt Brown in the UFC has landed 25 takedowns, which is about 0.96 per fight, right? Mm-hmm. And Carlos Condit has been taken down 55 times in the UFC at a rate of about 3 per fight. That's pretty crazy. So that is Matt Brown's really path to victory, but I just don't see it happening. I think he gets crumpled with something to the body.
Yeah. By the way, one of the comments says today's going to be great. UFC then NFL. Oh yeah. It's going to be a lot of sports here in the Floyd household today.
Yeah. Right. I know.
I think you probably know who I'm, you know where my heart lies. So
of course.
Tristan asks best place 76 and under. To me, it's Calvin Kattar.
Yeah, I mean, based on the price, based on 5 rounds.
Now, I will say this: the only thing that does concern me about Calvin is sometimes he can get off the slow starts.
Yep, it's a great point. And
and I go back to what his coach, Tyson Chartier, said to me. He goes, look, they want to get Max on his heels.
Mhm.
And also, he said, we've got to be throwing combos. That's going to be the key. I mean, look, Tyson Chartier is, he is finally getting the praise as a great coach in this industry and what he's been able to do. I mean, and this in New England for a long time, it has been, and even Calvin talked about this earlier this week where, he went out to California, he trained with the Diaz brothers because he was at that point of like, do I have to leave New England to get that high level? And then, of course, the stories come out that how those two connected was on the set of Here Comes the Boom.
Oh, no kidding. That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, Tyson Chartier is a notable name in New England MMA. Like, he really is. He's the manager for a lot of my buddies. And Calvin Kattar is a guy that I've trained with, and I can tell you that he's really well-rounded here. I'm interested to see the new factor that he's going to implement in this fight. You had Tyson Chartier talk about it, and it's one of two things, Jason. It's mixing things up and taking down Max Holloway, who has had a pretty good takedown defense in the UFC. But Holloway has been taken down 23 times in UFC, has a ton of fights. It's about one a fight, nothing significant. He has shown struggles to leg kicks. So maybe Kattar starts to implement a calf kick or some leg kicks. He does have a great Muay Thai coach. Regardless, I'm interested for the fight. I cannot wait. I hope you guys are excited as I am. It's early fights. I like early fights better.
Oh, yes. Every time. I mean, look, we got early fights on Wednesday morning, 9 a.m.
Yeah, I've been slammed with work for you guys, and I've been trying to put together all of my content for Wednesday's fights, and then we have the big McGregor fight after that. So regardless, make sure you guys are keeping it locked here with Awesemo.com. 410 people watching, Jason. If you guys could just hit that like button, pop your questions in chat. We'll get right to them.
And, of course, you got to make sure to follow the Awesemo MMA Twitter handle, Awesemo MMA DFS, so you can see all the great content that we have up there. Also, be sure to join our Awesemo Facebook group page as well for everyone there. Is of course, that Awesemo MMA DFS handle. Be tweeting out things throughout the fights, leading up to the fights to get you ready. So be sure to give that Twitter handle a follow. Also, be sure to follow Awesemo's Twitter handle at Awesemo_com. You can see it right there on the screen as Tyler has got it up there. Sean breaks up an interesting question. This is in terms of stacking, but a single entry GPP, saying, is Holloway Kattar fight stackable, viable for single entry GPP?
Yeah, it is. And the reason it is because of, us losing that Hawes Imavov fight. Now, granted, you need the main event to go 5 rounds, right? Like, excuse me, if Max Holloway goes out there and gets finished in the second round, which is unlikely, then the stack won't work. But what we've seen from Holloway, what we've seen from Kattar, it's probably going over 3. And if it goes over 3 rounds, I think the stack, ends up working out.
I'm stacking the fight in cash, not GPP.
Okay, yeah, I mean, it's cash viable. Stacks are always cash viable. GPP with the new scoring system, I'm taking a lighter approach than I usually do. As far as tournament selection, I usually hammer MMA DFS. Maxed out a smaller tournament, and we'll have to see how everything works out. But yeah, I'm excited.
Let's get a question in from our Slack account from Rich. He says, Pete, better chance with Kilburn over Zawada FanDuel.
I'm glad somebody brought up Zawada because I wrote about it. I think Zawada's live, and the reason Zawada's live is due to the inactivity of Hamzat Ameev in the fight. Like, he's lackadaisical. Like, his volume's not high. He can kind of just be there staring at you for a little bit. And Zawada's path to victory is to hit Hamzat Ameev hard. Like, I know that sounds really simple for a fight. Hit him hard on the feet, get him thinking and questioning himself, and defend takedowns. We have seen Zawada get taken down, controlled. How does that play into this fight? But Zawada's dangerous off of his back. So I have no problem. Like, you're talking about Justin Tafa or David Zawada. Give me Zawada. Like, I'm cool with it. I think that he can actually pull the upset here. Usually Ameev is more physical than his opponents. Zawada's the bigger guy here.
Okay, so this is a great tie into the new DraftKings scoring system.
Yep.
So Ameev, you're going to look at and say, oh, he only had 29 significant strikes his last fight. He doesn't throw enough. He had 67 total strikes in his last fight, 4 of 12 in takedown attempts, and nearly 7 minutes of control time.
Yeah. The control time is like, I think if you had advances, if a guy's taking somebody down and just constantly moving from position to position, you can really rack up points that way. The control time definitely adds some, like probably 10 to 20 points or whatnot, about 15 if it's something crazy. But you know, I will give props to Ameev in his last fight. He looked better. He did look better. I think coming into the UFC, you know, I will say it right now, Jason, you're a Russian fighter. You have high expectations from the promotion, and especially when you are just dominating competition regionally, you come into the UFC, you better step up and show. He's kind of been disappointing, in my opinion. He's been okay.
Yeah. Samuel, appreciate you in the super chat. He says the usual top 2 cash, top 2 GPP, top 2 underdogs, and upset of the night. Hope your holidays were great with the loved ones. Yeah, everything was well for us. In terms of top 2 cash, I look at Calvin Kattar as one. My other one in cash, I would say probably Carlos Condit.
Yeah, I like Carlos Condit quite a bit.
In terms of GPPs, where are you at with your top 2?
GPPs, I mean, I think Ponzinibbio at 9,300 comes in, gets a finish. I think that Todorovic and Conor are kind of like tied for me.
In terms of a top upset, I'm kind of looking Vanessa Melo.
Really? I like Melo. I will say, just to be different, right? To give an upset, not the main event, I'll say Kilburn. As like, you know, I told you, I'm smashing that fight. I think Kilburn can do it.
Another underdog, I think, Edwards, I think is their underdog you'd be looking at.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Edwards is a good one. It's just how does she handle her debut?
Yeah. Tristan Condit or Dusko GPP.
I'd probably lean Dusko.
Yeah, I'd probably lean Dusko.
Only reason, right, is because I know that Condit, I've been saying it all the week. You guys know I like Condit a lot. Him and Matt Brown have 90% finish rates. You mentioned you think that fight goes the distance. I think that's possible. I do think that's possible. Dusko, even in a decision, though, I think has a high floor. Like, I think that he puts together high volume, tons of takedowns, could get some control time, could get a late finish, which could work out for us.
Someone asked about high ownership potentially to fade.
I actually haven't even looked at ownership today, Jason, to be honest. So
I'm looking at it right now. I would not say I'm looking to fade any of the higher ones. I'm looking of where I can get leverage.
Is Ameev coming in high?
Decent. Nothing outstanding. I mean, look, my guess is going to be is if there's one that I may look at, and I'm not fading him by any stretch, but maybe because of what people have seen with Buckley in his last 2 fights, that people are going to potentially overinflate that a little bit. So that may be a potential leverage spot for you.
Yes. Great point. Let people chase Buckley. I mean, he could go out. If he finishes to Kiriko, like, come on, this kid is, you know, probably going to hurt a lot of people in the division.
He should win this fight.
I think he's going to win the fight. I mean, they're setting him up for a win. It's just like, now that he knows he has a legitimate opponent, you go from Jordan Wright to, you know, Alessio Di Chirico. You need to be measured. You need to not make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
That can actually, those thoughts in your head can actually make you pump the brakes and slow things down.
Mike says a Buckley decision, he's not earning value, no question. At 9,400, you're not paying 9,400 for a decision, a 3-round fight.
Right.
Scoops over our Slack count says, sorry if discussed already, but thoughts on Vanessa Melo?
I think that it's a close fight. The 9,100 from Morris is insane. Like to think that she was almost like a 3-1 favorite in any fight in the UFC is just crazy. It goes to show you like recency bias of people noticing Vanessa Melo gets taken down a lot, and Morris, does have some nice takedowns, more kind of like jiu-jitsu-esque of getting the clinch and lacing that leg and working a nice trip. Fighters evolve, right? So you can't just like say Melo's been horrible at defending takedowns. Look who she's fought in the UFC. I mean, like Carol Hossa, tough fight. You know what I mean? Like Tracy Cortez, you know what I mean? Like these are tough opponents. I think that it's a closer fight than what the odds say.
Let's do a little breakdown of Dusko and Soriano because somewhere it asked. I mean, look, I think from the Dusko aspect, he's got to avoid the power punches that Soriano is going to bring. The one question I do have is if this fight hits the third round, what does the gas tank look like for Soriano? Because you mentioned about, his body frame.
Yeah, I think the later this fight goes, the more it really favors Dusko. Just his whole game. I think that Puna's one of the best options out there to get you a knockout, especially at his price. I don't know. I know that Daquan Townsend was hitting Dusko Todorovic quite a bit in some moments, but if you look what like Dusko did and what he can do, granted, Puna Soriano is a heck of a fighter. I just think that it's a problem everywhere. Okay, say Dusko's losing striking exchanges. I think he's stronger. I think he can take down Puna Soriano, and I think that he has good ground and pound and actually is a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So, like, I know Soriano's no slouch in that department, but I really like Dusko here. I'm a little light on Puna. Does make me nervous.
D. Smith over in Slack was asking, this is for cash.
Yeah.
So Wada or Lee? That's a tough one.
I don't know if I really get to either in cash, but I understand you have to have a cheap option. Now, Zawada could literally just win a decision by defending takedowns, winning positions. And, at 7K, he could do good. Does have a high finish rate, 88%. Jing Liang, though, I think that would probably be the option. Just because he is 9-4 in the UFC, Zawada is 1-2 in the UFC. Ponzinibbio's been away from the sport for a little bit. I expect Ponzinibbio to win, but as far as value, Jing Liang's right at the top.
Yeah. Matt asking for us to run down our fight picks again. So these were my picks from Thursday, just because I highlighted them as we did them. Kattar, Condit, Ponzinibbio, Buckley, Dusko, Yanan, Felipe, Amiv, Morris, and Lingo.
Nice. Yeah. I don't even know if I remember what I said, but I think I went.
I remember we had some different ones.
Yeah. I went Kattar, Condit, Ponzinibbio, Buckley, Todorovic. The Hawes fights off. Edwards, I think is what I said. Felipe. I went the upset and Zawada, Melo, and I said Lingo, and I do still say Lingo. I just have a ton of expo. Like, it's a fight I'm targeting both sides. I think Kilburn needs to be in consideration.
Yeah. Of course, if you ever miss any of our shows, they are a part of the Awesemo Podcast Network. Just go to awesemo.com/podcast and be sure to leave a 5-star rating and review, especially on myself and Pete's podcast. And we do have a giveaway going on when you do leave a rating and review, as you have a chance to win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. So good luck over there. You see it on the screen. Be sure to hit that Awesemo Mma Dfs one, especially because that does help myself and Pete out as well. Pete, this comes from Jeremiah. He says, favorite low-owned GPP play on DraftKings?
Well, Kattar, right? Like, Kattar's got to be it. I mean,
it's for me, it's Kattar. If I wasn't going Calvin Kattar and I had to go somewhere else,
like say we have Max Holloway in the lineup, right? Let's kind of just start there. We have Max Holloway. Who do you like low? It's ugly.
From a roster construction aspect, going Mello at 7,100 does make sense. If I was gonna go somewhere else in GPP, probably Justin Taffa with the knockout ability.
Yeah. All right. So let me kind of like put this in perspective. I think that Todorovic outclasses Soriano. I just do. You can't sway me from that. Taffa, Zavada, Mello, Kilburn. I think Mello has the best shot at winning. I just don't know if she's like GPP. I think it could be like a decision. I think Zavada, if he wins, it's probably in order to get rid of Amir, he's probably got to knock him out on the feet or hurt him on the feet, or maybe sub him off his back, but I don't like him being on his back. It comes down to Zavada or Kilburn. I think that they're both close as far as like, in relationship to their opponents.
Yeah, no, it's tough under 8K. It is extremely tough on 8K. Best core in DraftKings GPP.
I will say first fight, main event, Todorovic Soriano. That's instead of picking fighters, those are the three fights that I'm left with where I want a lot. And Condit. You throw Condit in there.
Yeah. Andrew goes, isn't Buckley overrated? One lucky knockout, a knockout win over a weird kid. Let's not forget a bunch of scrubby performances in Bellator. But I would preface it this way. He's evolved. The fighter that was in Bellator is not the fighter we're seeing right now in the UFC. Hold on.
Who said that? They said scrubby performances in Bellator. Who said that?
Yeah, Andrew.
That? Andrew. Hold on. I'm pulling up his Tapology because I'm pretty sure the fight that I fought on the same card as Joaquin Buckley, he fought Vinicius de Jesus. And Vinicius de Jesus is a monster. So let's not really, just because they're not in the UFC, like there are fighters that are 12-3 and fight bums, and there are guys who are 12-3 and fight UFC level fights. Okay, let's figure this out. Fought Logan Storley, Vinicius de Jesus. Those are two big names in Bellator.
Logan's a good fighter, man.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Like, what are we talking about here?
By the way, Logan Storley is Robbie Lawler's main wrestling partner.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. That should tell you the abilities that Logan Storley has. Jeremiah says, who's going to be the most over-owned on DraftKings today, in your opinion?
Joaquin Buckley.
Yeah, I would agree there. Does Santiago pay off his price at 9,300?
Hard to say. I feel like he does. I don't blame you if you're a little hesitant because of the layoff, though.
Sammy asks, any safe cash plays? I think the main event.
Yeah. I think main event's a nice way to start. It really is.
By the way, we're about 10 minutes away from the start of these fights. The fights start at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Main card on ABC at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Prelims on ESPN+. And then at the start of the main card on ESPN, we are going to find out the future of Khabib Nurmagomedov.
Yeah, he's staying retired. I will be shocked. Dana looks like he's about to cry. So I think that he's staying retired.
My gut says it's announced he is going to defend the title.
Yeah,
he will defend the title against either Conor McGregor or Michael Chandler if they win.
Well, look if that's the case, right? Then Dana White is like he's taking acting classes because he looks like he's upset. Yeah, he just does.
Look, he wants the rematch. He's a promoter. It's the biggest fight the UFC can make.
Yeah, I agree.
Biggest fight.
I agree. It is. And you saw McGregor in the press talking about how Khabib is scared and all that. But
he's got an interview on SportsCenter tomorrow morning. It'll air on the 8 a.m. Eastern Time, SportsCenter. But my guess is that if it's announced that Khabib is retiring, that Conor Poirier will be a vacant lightweight title fight.
Yeah. All right. Hey, You really think that Habib's coming back?
Bro, money talks.
But
Money talks. I don't care how much money you got. Money talks.
okay.
I mean, look, I think it's 50-50, but I think the fact of it is there is so much money to be made. I would, plus here's also the thing. Never believe fire retirements. When you tell me you're retired, I don't believe you.
Yeah.
Your dad can tell me he's retired. I don't believe him.
My dad.
I think your dad would take a fight.
My dad's still trying to come out of retirement.
Never believe combat sports retirements. Ant says, why do you like Edwards so much over Yanan? No stock in Yanan's experience in the UFC and her close fights.
It's a great point. I do have stock in Yanan. I just think that, this fight is a short notice fight, right? And she typically fights at 125 pounds and was going to fight Betch Kahea, who's a big girl. Edwards is a long frame opponent who, despite the lack of UFC experience, as far as women's MMA, she kind of checks some boxes. Like, she really does. She looks good. And I think that as long as she limits mistakes, that's what you want to be careful of, right? Like, Yanan could bust the slate because you have a debuting fighter. And I don't know, though. But as far as debut fighters, I don't usually back them. But I think that Edwards can do it here.
Favorite $10 under fighter on FanDuel? This comes from Jeff.
Jeff, thanks for the question. $10.
Hello, $8. Look, I'm going to tell you this. I think if you're looking for leverage, Sarah Morris is the way to go today.
Yeah.
Just don't trust that at all.
Absolutely. I agree. I will say that Melo is probably, the best option in that price range. I told you I hammered the first fight. I do have plenty of Lingo. I do have plenty of Kilburn just because I think both men make mistakes. That's another spot you can look at. But Melo's probably safer.
Bobby brings up an interesting point. Do you think stacking the main event will be popular in cash or GPPs? I do think it'll be popular in cash.
I think it's going to be popular everywhere because we lost Phil Hawes, right? Like, 8,800 fighter. It's going to make the fighters around him a little bit more popular. 8,900 Max Holloway, 8,700 Carlos Condit, 8,600 Carlos Felipe, who we haven't really talked about this entire time. I don't know why we didn't talk about him. He's a guy that, has good boxing for the heavyweight division, can actually pick apart Justin Tafa. We shall see.
Yeah. Speaking of Tafa, Travis says, is Tafa worth the GPP roster over Edwards DraftKings?
In a GPP, I'd probably say yeah, because if he wins, it's a finish, right? It's a finish. Like, what he does is he knocks people out. I think that it's a small road to victory.
Can Edwards score enough in a win on FanDuel GPP?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad price tag. It's a close fight, but how much stock do you really put in a debuting fighter? I'd rather take some shots elsewhere, but I do think Edwards can get it done.
Better captain on FanDuel, Holloway or Lingo?
I say Holloway.
I'd probably say Holloway as well because Calvin does get hit a lot. That's one thing. He does get hit a lot.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at both guys, right? If you're going on my heat sheet, Holloway 6.47 strikes output, does absorb 4.5. Kattar 5.01 strikes output, absorbs 5.66. So Calvin Kattar, despite the great boxing, does get hit a decent amount.
Is Soriano and Dusko stack a better stack than Kattar and Holloway because of the lower ownership?
No.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I would not stack any fight besides the main event.
And look, and if you've listened and watched the me and Pete for, we've been here also about 10 months now. We're not big stackers. We're not big on stacking fights. You just have to find the right fights. And to me, this is the right kind of fight.
I mean, my mom stacks like odd fights and like picks weird people, and it works out for her. But I don't know. I don't recommend it.
I'll tell you this. I got to know from our listeners. Would you like a listener tournament on DraftKings. That's what I want to know.
I'd be cool with it. That'd be awesome.
I know we do some stuff on basketball, so maybe we'll have to do like a listener type GPP on DraftKings for
that'd be fun
for next week.
That'd be fun.
Sean saying he goes, I heard Pete saying he likes Kilburn. Can you elaborate, please?
I mean, I really wouldn't say like. I'm nervous with that fight in general, so that's why I hammered the fight, because I just think they both make so many mistakes. Now, a lot of people, if you just look at like the past couple fights of Kilburn, he doesn't look UFC ready. Like, I can actually say he doesn't look UFC ready because he hasn't had a chance to show what he's capable of. Now, I went back to early professional, amateur, like, because I'm trying to see all possibilities for victory here. And Kilburn has some really, really, really good kicks. Like, if he mixes it up against Austin Lingo, who's predominantly a boxer, he just has to avoid that big overhand right. And I think that it can be competitive on the feet. Somebody should get finished here. So I like targeting low-level fights for, a lot of GPP potential. You know what I mean? Somebody makes a mistake, they capitalize it, and boom, next thing you know, you got an optimal player.
Zane asks, the safest option for MVP on FanDuel?
I mean, safest, you put Max Holloway. I think that's safest, as if history repeats itself, he's dominated in a competition, you put him in there, you don't bat an eye at it. I do think Kattar gets it done, though. But, like, if you are safe, go with like, if it's not broken, don't fix it, right? And Max Holloway in the featherweight division has looked really good outside of the champ.
Got a couple minutes left here. We'll do a little rapid fire, but do us a favor, hit that thumbs up button and keep it locked here to Awesemo.com all day long. And if you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. We're getting closer to 50,000 subscribers here on YouTube. Show your support for Awesemo that way.
Yes.
DraftKings single entry, Mello and Dusko, or Zawada and Felipe?
First one.
Okay. How is Tafa's volume?
Crap. We said rapid fire, right? Like, let's go.
Yeah, man. Just trying to find some other questions here. Mello and Edwards or Kattar and Tafa?
God. Mello Edwards, 2 women's MMA bouts. Goodness, but okay.
By the way, be sure to check out that promo below. Use that promo code KICKOFF to get 50% off a single week of Awesemo Plus Platinum. Favorite fighter on DK under 7.9K? It's Kattar for me.
It's Kattar. Yeah.
Looks like that's all the questions. We'll be here for a couple more minutes. Get you ready. Morgan and Slack, favorite play under 7,400 DK? Kattar.
Kattar.
What fight breaks the slate?
First fight.
Really?
Yeah. They both make mistakes. And let me tell you, Austin Lingo is going to be super popular because of what you see on tape. The guy has amazing hands. I have plenty of Austin Lingo. I just think that nobody's giving Kilburn a shot. Nobody.
Yeah. By the way, during the fights, myself and Pete will be in our premium Slack channel, so you can chat with us during the fight. More points in a loss, Cherico or Mello?
Mello. Volume.
Have to be different. Edwards or Kattar?
If you want to be different, you go Edwards.
Yeah, totally. Everyone's going to be on. Everyone's going to be on the main event. There's no question about it. That's something. And look, good luck to everyone out there. Looking forward to our first UFC fight card of the year. Of course, this is the first of 3 fights over the next week. Of course, on Wednesday you've got the Fight Night card, which will be 9 a.m. East Coast time, lock time on Wednesday. So we'll be here on Monday and Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Strategy show on Monday, live before lock on Tuesday night. And then what we'll do is on Wednesday morning, we'll both be in Slack. We'll answer some questions about the fights. And then, of course, we'll get you ready for UFC 257. Strategy show will be on Thursday. Live before lock will be on Saturday. As I may be here for live before lock. I may not. I might be in Green Bay. So we'll see.
Well, I hope you're not here. So that means you guys are still moving on. But
I like it. I like it.
Yeah, I can't wait. But make sure you guys tune into, Monday night, Tuesday night, because we have the Wednesday show. And, if you guys kill it today, make sure you post some screenshots, tag us. We just love seeing it. Good luck, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Hit that like button before you leave. And, thanks.
And be sure to go to Awesemo.com and check out all of Pete's content right up there. Takedown City, betting columns, all the things up there. You got to check out that weigh-in analysis as well. So Pete's doing giving some great content over at Awesemo.com. So that is going to do it for Live for Luck. Good luck to everyone out there, and keep it locked here to Awesemo.com all day long. Next show starts in 90 minutes to get you ready for today's NFL playoff action. Peace.